Mythic stories help us order the world around us. They help us to give meaning to our lives, each stage of our lives, and to our own ultimate demise. All things that in postmodernity can be seen as having no meaning. Joseph Campbell, in The Power of Myth, gives us some insight into how myths help us make order from chaos. Putting the mind in accord with the body and way of life in accord with nature is a loaded statement. How true is it for you? What is the role of ritual in myth and in life? Myth, especially ancient myth, reveals a society's attitude towards nature and that which cannot be controlled or is seen as inevitable. Story helps us understand our role in our own bodies and the body's role in nature. Without these understandings, we've got chaos. One of the ultimate questions is death. What is it? What happens to us after death? Death perhaps is the concern of the old, but when we are faced with the death of grandparents and parents, we are forced to see our own deaths. We must make sense of life in the face of death. Myths help with that. We also face death when we see an animal killed and eat the flesh of animals. To kill is to overcome any sense of killing and the death of the animal. In hunting societies, according to Campbell, this must be ritualized in order to make sense of it. Death is permanent, but in ritual, death gives life to others. Hunting societies ritualize the killing of their animal food and raise those animals to a special bond, and in some cases, raise them up as gods. For the animal, and the death of the animal means life and nourishment. Any meat-eating person, in recognizing the death gives life cycle, does not revert to slaughter, but ritualizes the act of killing and one's own life's dependency on the animal for life. Thus, the hunt is ritualized. Out of these rituals come human death rituals. Humans are buried in the ground or raised above the ground to transition to the new life. Thus, the animals are raised to being equal or superior to humans. Mythic animals teach us lessons about life and how to live. They also provide us with identities and desirable character traits: the busy bee, the stalwart buffalo, the concerted efforts of a pack of wolves, or the eyes of an eagle. Campbell also laments the modern lack of male initiation rites, which he thinks is an important ritual signifying a boy becoming a man, which is not marked by any external signs. These stages, if not marked externally through circumcision or tattooing, then must be marked by a ritual that makes you a member of society with standing and clearly expressed responsibilities associated with that status. Is this the self-separation from society part of this alienation, as Moyer suggests? Consider the questions posed here. Myths reflect how we see nature. If nature is evil or corrupt, it must be dominated, and the human is placed as superior to nature, which is fallen. In these traditions, spontaneity is sinful. So seeing nature as fallen or seeing nature as an aspect of the divine determines our myths about nature and ultimately our relationship to it. According to Campbell, hunting cultures, which tend to be more individualistic, according to him, are so because the hunter often works alone and is measured by individual skills developed often for oneself and one's family. These cultures tend to be seen as masculine, whereas the agricultural group, submitting to the cycle of life, similar to the monthly cycle of life embodied in the woman, is seen as feminine. One is a killing, masculine orientation based on individual skill, whereas the other is based on collective action and subjugation to the cycles of nature, the sun, the moon, and the yearly cycles of the seasons. The kill is immediate and sudden. The growth of seeds is prolonged and needs patience, nurturing. So according to Campbell, Desert dwellers in such a harsh climate tend to be patriarchal, as agriculture is less of a way of life, while agricultural societies, based on the cycles of nature, can be more matrilineal. This generalization by Campbell is somewhat a function of the gender norms of the time he lived in. The essentialization of this would need to be studied, and in contemporary times, perhaps other words would be chosen that are not so gendered or gender specific. No matter what, planting cultures have planting myths with cyclical views of time and the images of seeds and planting as core to the mythic structure and rituals coming from them, while the hunting cultures have myths that are more linear in view of time, with the animal as the focus of the stories. The plant is the teacher in agricultural societies, while the animal is the teacher and a god in some cases in hunting cultures. The animal, a self-contained individual, reflects the individualism of the hunting world with one life and one death, which is permanent, whereas a planting culture will see life as being now this way, next that way. You can plant and replant or prune for the sake of health, or graft a plant onto another for its preservation. The death brings new life. Winter gives way to spring. Death is not death, but a requirement to make the way for the seed, that tiny fertile piece, to seek root and grow and produce more fruit. Our myths are reflected in our lifestyles and our views of nature. Myths give order to what we do, how we do it, and what it all means. The next presentation, I'll talk about mythic approaches to the transcendent.